Now, I know that I said Ansible is really not a programming language kind of thing that you're going to have to learn in order to set up playbooks. So maybe let's pretend that as I introduce the idea of variables, that they're high school math algebra and not programming variables, which is just a cop-out on my part. But variables are an easy concept for us to understand. I mean, we use variables everywhere when it comes to computing, so this shouldn't be a confusing idea. The really cool part about Ansible, though, is yes, you can use variables, and we'll set those up. However, Ansible creates a set of variables that it calls facts. And that is all of the information about a particular host populates these variables that we can then use inside playbooks. Now, in order to see what all of those facts are, we get to use a module in setup mode, a module in ad hoc mode called setup. It's really easy to do. Let's first of all see what it looks like to set up variables inside of a playbook, and then I want to show you how to get facts out of a computer to incorporate into your playbooks. So let's create a playbook. I'm just going to say vi test.yaml. We'll do our 3 dashes at the top, signify that it's a YAML file. And then let's see, for hosts, let's actually just do one. Let's just do Ubuntu for our host. So we're just working on one computer. It works on multiple, just like everything else in Ansible, but we're just going to do one for the sake of simplicity. And we need to start anything called vars here. All right, so vars and then a colon. Before we specify them, we're going to put a dash. Let's say var1 is cool stuff here, var2 cool stuff there. All right, so this is just assigning this string to these variables, and then we can use them inside of a task. So we can say tasks, call it echo stuff, make this a shell module, and we're going to say echo. And here's how you specify a variable. We're going to say open bracket, or curly brace, I guess they're called, curly brace, and then specify the name of it. So var1 space curly brace, close. So it's going to echo that. And then is var1, but var2 is, and then we're going to put curly braces here, var2, and we're going to close that. And we want to redirect this into, let's say, home, nugget1, desktop, file.txt, and that should do it. What we're going to hope to see is that var1 and var2 are substituted in here, referencing them just like that. It's going to be really simple. We're going to say Ansible playbook, test.yaml. We don't need to become root to do this, so we're just going to do this. It's going to do it just for Ubuntu. Says okay, there was a change. Let's go over here and look. We should see on the desktop a file, and inside this file, cool stuff here is var1, but var2 is cool stuff there. So it was just really simple variable substitution. But that's just scratching the surface of what we can do with variables. I mean, conceptually you get what's going on here. However, do you remember every time we run a playbook, it starts out here and says gathering facts? Well, that is populating this entire list of variables that we can reference inside the rest of our playbook. Now we can see what those are by using a simple ad hoc command. So we can say, let's clear the screen first. We can say Ansible Ubuntu-m setup. And this is going to show us, it's going to return the entire list of variables that are available for us here to use. And you'll see there are a ton of them that talk about the different things like what's the host name of the system, the kernel, the MAC address, all of this stuff. And if you want to filter, you can actually say -a filter equals, let's say, star, family star, press enter. And we should get one result because we've filtered, so it only shows variables that have star family star, meaning like anything family anything in it. And there's only one that has the word family in it, and that is Ansible OS family, Debian. Now I'm hoping all of a sudden you just went, whoa, if we can determine based on the facts what kind of system this is, we're going to be able to use that to determine how we go about like installing packages and all that stuff. And you're absolutely right. However, I first want to start just so that you know this is how you see what options are available, what you can actually see. The Ansible user, group ID for the Nugget1 user that we logged in as, all of this stuff is available if you use that setup module and you can see it. And using that real simple ad hoc command, you can determine all of those available variables or facts. Again, a fact is just a specific kind of variable. It's one that's been defined during the processing of the playbook. It determines or it gathers those facts. And you can do things like CPU type, OS family, which is what we looked at, and it says Debian, RAM amount, IP address. All of those things are available for you to manipulate inside of a playbook. And how do you reference those? Well, you reference them the same exact way you would reference any other. So this is the name of Ansible _OS _family. So let's go back in and edit our YAML file, and let's change this. Let's say redirect this into home nugget1 desktop. Instead of file.txt, let's call it Ansible _OS _family.txt. And now what you should expect is that that same text is going to be in a file, but instead of being in something called file.txt, it's going to make it in a file called Debian.txt. See what I did there? How it's kind of tricky? It actually used the variable or the fact that it gathered to determine that name. So let's save this. Let's do Ansible playbook, test.yaml. Goes through the same thing. There was a change. However, if we go back over here to the Ubuntu machine on the desktop, we should close this. Now, we should still see that file.txt. We didn't erase that. However, there's a new file called, sure enough, debian.txt, and inside there is that same stuff. We just changed the file name using a fact variable so that we can manipulate the name of it by substituting that in. It's really simple to substitute in variables. Again, it's kind of programming, I guess, but it's not really that big of a deal. You just enclose them in a double set of curly braces, and then it will substitute whatever that variable is into your playbook. It seems like a really simple process, and really it is simple to use it, but there are so many facts that are available on a system. It's worth going through and scrolling through and reading through all of that stuff if you run that setup module in ad hoc mode to see the types of facts that are available for us to use inside of a playbook. So I encourage you to play around with this and figure out what facts are and how you can use them inside of a playbook. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.